Coach, when you look back on the Temple game and now looking forward to what you need to do this week, what's the one thing, the concern that you really want to address this week in practice?
Well, I think there's a lot of them, Scott. And obviously disappointed the result Saturday, disappointed the way we played. Really on both sides of the football. Right after the game, I had concerns about our fight and our effort in the course of the game. Going back and watching the film, I thought our effort was not the issue. I think it was. I wouldn't say that our energy was great. I thought we were a little flat coming out, obviously, which attributed them getting off to a fast start. But I thought a little bit of lack of mental focus on our part. That showed up in some of the execution stuff that Rich said on both sides of the football. And obviously, we got to take responsibility for that as coaches as well. A lot of that execution stuff is on us to coach it better. But obviously, we got to get something going offensively. And not being able to sustain drives, not being able to convert on third downs has been an issue, the last 3 weeks in particular. And we're going to find a way this week, obviously, to put our players in the best possible position to be successful and make sure that things that we're asking them to do, that they can go do and do well. And the plan is very clear and concise. Defensively, we got to regroup and we got to play better. I think Temple, offensively, a good football team. I think E.J. Warner's a very good quarterback, probably a little underrated in our conference. And he did some really good things Saturday, but we certainly didn't help ourselves from an execution standpoint defensively. And I thought we did a really good job in the early downs. They weren't able to run the football effectively. We got them behind the sticks. I'm in second long a bunch, but we couldn't keep them behind the sticks. And obviously, I was proud of the way our kids fought coming out in the second half. Made it a ball game, and then had 2 opportunities to get stops on defense and didn't do it. 2 opportunities on those 2 drives to get stops in the red zone, one on 3rd and 8, one on 3rd and 11, and didn't get off the field. We've been really good at that, this year, and weren't able to get those stops on Saturday. And ultimately, that was the difference in the game in the second half. But, got off to a really bad start, obviously, and I think as coaches we pressed a little bit when that happened. I think our players did a little bit too, and we just got to do a better job. We got to do a better job coaching. It starts with me, obviously. We say victory is produced and shared by all around here, and so is defeat. And there's certainly plenty of responsibility to pass around. And it all starts with me and our staff, and we got to do a better job putting our players in position to be successful, making sure they're ready to go, and whatever it is we do on both sides of the football, making sure that we can go execute what we're asking our players to do.
With that said, does that magnify the importance of getting out to a good start against UAB at home?
Yeah, absolutely. We can't afford to get off to a slow start. We got to get off to a better start early on offense. I think the last 3 games in particular, we haven't been able to do anything in the first half, and so it's absolutely critical for us to get off to a fast start.
What's impressed you with what you've seen from UAB?
Well, I think they're, obviously they're scoring 35 points a game offensively. 450 yards of offense. I think what they do is really challenging to defend. Quarterback's a really good player, really good running back. They're good up front. I think they have 8 players that have double digits receiving the football. So they do a good job of spreading it out, keeping you off balance. A lot of explosive plays in their offense, and they're athletic on defense as well. I think they're a team that's been very competitive every week, and a team that's continued to get better throughout the season. Got a ton of respect for Trent Dilfer, a passionate guy, and his team plays that way. So it's going to be a great challenge for us.
Thanks a lot, Coach.
Thanks, Scott.
Joe Miller.
Hey, Coach. I know coaches always like to sort of identify the problems, and it seems like the frustrating part is, like, and you touched on it there, the third down and the penalties have been consistently like an issue the last 3 or 4 weeks. And how do you have to clean, when you talk about third down and being more efficient there, where does it start there, and where does it start with the penalties?
Yeah, what starts in the early downs, getting yourself in manageable third downs. We haven't done a great job of that, and we didn't have any penalties offensively this week. And we had 4 on special teams, really sloppy. That's a unit we've been really good on all year. and played decent. Just you can't have 4 penalties on special teams. We had 3 penalties on defense. Face mask in the first play of the game on Ray, the second one in as many weeks, and pass interference call in a critical situation, and then 4th and 1 we're fighting to get a stop and try to pull a guy off a pile, and they call us for that, and they should have. It's dumb on our part and undisciplined, and that's a reflection on us as coaches. We got to do a better job. It's just sloppy, and it's not Navy football. Our guys know that. It's one thing to have penalties when they're effort penalties, and those are going to happen in the course of the game. It's another thing to have just undisciplined, sloppy penalties. They just kill you. It's instead of being 1st and 10 from the plus 30 going in, now it's 1st and 10 from the plus 15. And so really untimely penalties cost us, obviously, and we can't do that around here, as we know the margin for error is really small for us, and we're not helping ourselves in regards to that.
When you got a chance to look at the film, how did you think Xavier did? Obviously, it's been a while since he started a game at quarterback, and how did you feel he played?
Yeah, I thought he did some good things, Joe. I really did. Made some nice throws. There were a couple that we missed that we probably should have hit, but I thought he did some good things with his feet too, and got us in and out some plays. There's always mistakes, always things that we can do better, and that's across the board. But I thought that he was pretty solid, Joe.
When the one number that sticks out to me when you look at UAB is their quarterback is completing 75% of his passes, which is an extremely high percentage. Mm-hmm. What do they do well as far as in the passing game to get to a point where they obviously his accuracy is going to be really good, but what do they do well as an offense to get to the point where they can complete passes? And it's not like they're throwing the ball 5 or 10 times that they can complete at such a high percentage.
Right. They do a nice job of, they're going to take their shots. I think they've had 6 or 7 kids throw the football, so a lot of trick play type stuff. They will take their shots down the field. They do a really good job, the quarterback does in the RPO world, of taking what you give them. It's a lot of quick, short throws. A jet sweep is, you count that as a pass if you don't hand it off, right? So that's obviously a high percentage deal. Not to say he's not very accurate and very efficient when he throws the football, because he certainly is. But they do a great job. We said there's motion and shifting and on at least half of their plays, and it's as a defense you got to be really disciplined, having your eyes in the right place with all the eye candy that they give you, and I think the throws that they ask quarterback to make are high percentage type of throws a lot of the time, and that's the result of a 75% completion rate. But he's very good, and it's not to take anything away from his arm or his accuracy by any stretch, but I think what they do offensively helps in that regard too, Joe, if that makes sense.
Sure. Thanks, Coach.
Wags.
So, Coach, do you feel like you stick with Xavier coming up this week?
Yeah, I think the week of practice is going to tell exactly what we do there. Braxton obviously still in the mix and continue to get a ton of reps. And like I said, as we're putting the game plan together this week, we go out and we practice it and see how those guys do, and we'll go from there.
In terms of the distribution, obviously 30 carries for the quarterback and whatever it was, a total of 12 or something for the rest of the ball carriers. How do you fix that? You want to be a little more balanced, don't you?
Yeah, absolutely. I think when you run the triple, sometimes what teams do dictate kind of who gets the ball based on the read that you get. But certainly we've got some players that need to get more touches, Wags, to your point, and that's something that's been an emphasis for us, and didn't do a good enough job of it, on Saturday.
Obviously, Temple had 8-9 guys up on the line of scrimmage. When you did throw, you found some success there as guys got behind. Do you think you're going to have to do that a little more to back people off? Yeah. It sounds. I'm going to guess that future opponents are going to try to mirror that game plan and dare you to throw it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's, probably should have done that earlier in the game, obviously. I think we're so consumed with not getting off track and moving the chains that we didn't do that early on and should have. It's something we've talked about, obviously. And but yeah, I mean, when people are doing that, we got to be able to loosen them up. And we have to take shots, and even if we don't hit them, at least you're keeping people honest, and defending the run. And so it's certainly something we have to do. And when we've done that, it's been pretty good. But we've got to do it more often.
So you talked about the offensive struggles the last 3 games. How do you get it fixed? I mean, is it purely a case of not being able to block people, and or is there what's the kind of the if there's a magic fix, what is it?
Yeah, I think obviously we got to be able to execute what it is we do, and as coaches, we got to make sure what we're doing game plan wise. What we're asking our players to do that they can go do and execute, and gives them the best chance, us the best chance to win football games. I made the decision this week to get back to some home base stuff. I feel like that's what we had to do to win, or probably handcuff Coach Chesnut a little bit in that regard, and that's on me. And I think I don't want to give too much away, and what our plan is offensively moving forward, Wags, but we got to open it up for sure. To the point of your question earlier, when we've done that this year, it's been pretty good for us. But we got to get back on track in that regard, and we got to coach them better. We got to be able to make in-game adjustments quicker, on both sides of the football, and we can't press as coaches either in a situation where we get behind early in the game. But yeah, we got to get it fixed. We know that, and we're doing everything we can to get that done.
Thanks,
Pete.
Brian, just to clarify on what you said there, is that the reason why there weren't as many attempts to at least pass the ball in the first half? Because in the second half, when you were able to do that a little bit more, you guys were able to hit on some of those things, obviously. And it seems as if, the reality is you have personnel that can get open and win some one-on-one battles. Is that not a reality?
Yeah, that absolutely is. And, to Wag's question earlier, distributing the ball, we've got some really good players. Eli Heidenreich's got to get the ball more. Chapman's got to get the ball more. Texas got to get the ball more. And we've got to be able to do that, within the confines of our offense, and find ways to do it. And we'll do a better job of that moving forward, certainly.
I asked Grant last week, obviously most option offenses are predicated on outnumbering people. It seems as if right now, at least because of how many defenders are in the neighborhood, it's getting tougher and tougher to outnumber those folks. Trying to find a way to get that done. Is that still part of what you all are trying to put together offensively here in terms of the numbers game? Because, I mean, let's face it. I mean, you see it. I mean, there's just a ton of defenders up at the line of scrimmage.
Yeah, it's attacking certain looks, making sure that you attack them the right way. When we got to be able to run some triple option around here, and that's got to be our home base. But we've got to be able to do some other things as well, Pete, if that makes sense. And so when you're doing a little bit of both, if you just live in the triple option world, there's a lot of nuances and tags, different looks that you're getting. So what we've got to do a great job of is, when we are in that world, being super efficient and then executing to the different looks that we get. And if you were to go and watch the film from Saturday, we're really, really close. It's a leverage block here, or a missed block there of, a 2-yard play. Should have been a 10-yard play, for example. And so it's a combination of, us not executing as well as we need to be sufficient in that world. So you got to be able to find a balance of being really good at that and what you carry in that world, and all the other things that we're trying to do to be multiple and not be one-dimensional. If that makes sense, Pete.
Yeah, sure. Joe, and I've noticed it almost seems as if, like, when you guys go back to pass, middle linebackers on the other team, it's almost like an automatic. They're coming. Is that something you're seeing on tape from everybody, or was that just something maybe we saw the last week or two? Because it seems like middle linebackers are just taking off for your quarterback when he goes back to pass.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes it depends on what people are doing, but certainly under center when you're play action pass, those guys are up in the line of scrimmage, and it's easier. I know from defensive coordinator, tell those guys just to go ahead and add because they're not going to be a factor, in coverage when they do drop out. So that's kind of what naturally happens, when you're under center in the option world. And then we do get in the gun sometimes. Teams will have a spy player, like we do defensively at times, and he's taught to add quickly if it's not a run. And so, yeah, but you got to be able to account for those guys, and if they're doing that, you have to have answers for it, obviously, and we got to be able to get our quarterbacks out of the pocket, as well. And, but then the quick throw stuff that we talked about doing helps in that regard too.
Awesome, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Scott Wyckoff.
Coach, how important are your team leaders in a situation like this when you're facing some adversity, coming off a couple losses, but still trying to keep this team together with a lot of your goals still ahead of you?
Yeah, critical. And they've been great, and really our whole team has. And you walk around the locker room after that game, and I don't see guys flinching. I don't see guys separating. Our guys will stay together. This is a team of some high character young men. Adversity builds character, but I think more than anything, it reveals your personal character and the character of your football team. And I think you'll see a team that responds this week in a positive way. I honestly, Scott, I don't worry about that piece of it because we do have great leadership and not just from our captains, but from a lot of guys on our team. I know they'll come out today ready to go to work and bounce back, and just like our staff will be.
Thank you.
Thanks, Scott.
Joe.
I'm good. Thanks, Scott.
Flags.
So when you review the tape, I mean, what was issue pass defense wise? I mean, you weren't able to get much pressure on Warner, but they were getting it out quick.
Yeah.
Just when you looked at it, how was he able to pick you apart?
Yeah, he's a good quarterback, really good quarterback, and to your point, we weren't able to get pressure. We did have guys in his face, but he was able to get the ball out quickly. Got the ball to the right places on time. I think we got a little over aggressive, at times during the game when probably should have just played coverage, and that was kind of the plan going in. And that's to the point I made earlier about us pressing a little bit, trying to make something happen. You're down 17 to nothing pretty quick. Even after the first drive, I thought we pressed a little bit. And I think Coach Volk would tell you that right away. And it's something we talked about afterwards. But certain times of the game, you'd like to just defend it instead of trying to bring pressure. And I think, both those third down situations didn't execute, and then we said going to the game, we couldn't give up X plays, and the two longest pass plays of the game were a 5-yard hitch. Kid broke 3 tackles, the 9 that we missed all day, and then the other one was a zero blitz, caught us in a tunnel screen, and we weren't able to get it tackled. So, but I think a big part of that was EJ Warner, and then some critical situations, particularly in the red zone, the 3rd and 8 wags, and the 3rd and 11. We've been really good at getting off the field in those situations. Been really good in the red zone for the most part. Didn't execute, weren't able to get off the field, and those were 2 critical drives in the game where it's 1 point 15-17 game. They convert a 3rd and 8 there for a touchdown, and then it's 3rd and 11. And it's a 6-point game. A chance to get off the field, hopefully, or at least force them to kick a field goal. We weren't able to do that. So, like I said, we didn't play well enough on either side of the football. Obviously, to win that game. Didn't coach well enough. It's got to get better, and it will. I promise you that.
Well, obviously, you've got to get the pass defense fixed in a hurry because this kid just threw for close to 500 yards. What do you see in the Zeno, the quarterback at Alabama Birmingham?
Yeah, I think he's a really good player. I think he's a savvy quarterback, sees the field well. I think what they do systematically fits him really, really well. I think he's really, really comfortable with what they do, and he runs the offense very, very efficiently. Not just throwing the football, but he can run the ball as well. He's an athletic quarterback. They're multiple in what they do offensively. Like I mentioned earlier, it's a shift or a motion on over half of their snaps, and a lot of eye candy. She's a team you got to be really disciplined against. You got to be great on the perimeter, setting edges and being physical out there in space and not getting out leveraged. Because like I said earlier, a lot of the throws are short, quick hitting type throws on the perimeter. So we got to do a great job, and obviously a much better job we did this past week.
So, I mean, you had mentioned what they do. I mean, is it just a typical spread? 5 receivers usually? What exactly is their offense?
Yeah, I mean they're 11 personnel primarily. We'll give you some 12 personnel. When they're in 11 personnel, they'll give you 11 personnel formations and 10 personnel formations. Do a good job moving their guys around. Do a good job distributing the football, run the ball effectively. The run sets up, the boot, the play action, all the stuff, off the run game. And they do a really good job with the perimeter throws. Getting the ball out in space to their best players and letting those guys make plays. So just what they do is unique, and they do a really good job of it.
So, I mean, what is your message to the team this week? I mean, do you feel there's a sense of urgency? I mean, the season's slowly slipping away, and you got these 2 home games, and then you're on the road at SMU. Then it's Army Navy. It's not a lot left. What's kind of your message to the club?
I think for us, it's always a sense of urgency, Wags. That never changes week to week. I think we got a little humble pie on Saturday. Sometimes that's good for you. I think just a reminder for our players that every game that we play is going to be a dogfight. And there's not a game we can't win, but there's no games that we play that we can't get beat either. And so just understanding the margin for error is so small that the details for us are everything. And it's not what we do necessarily; it's how we do it and the way that we execute. What we're doing is so important, and it's just a great reminder for our players. Not that they didn't know that before, but that'll be the message this week. And we've got to separate ourselves with our effort, our toughness, and we got to be a more disciplined football team than we are right now. I think our players understand that and we'll be up for the challenge.